Okay, so you get in to start your Volvo XC90 and you see this in the information panel. Time for regular service. What does that mean? First thing you want to think about is what regular service do you have coming up? Oil change, transmission fluid flush, air filter. The best thing to do is to check your mileage, then look into your owner's manual and find out what services is due at that time. In my case, I know it's the oil change, so we're about to do that right now. And I'll show you how to change the oil in a 2004 Volvo XC90 and how to reset that warning interval. But best thing to do if you don't know, if you don't do your own maintenance, just look in your service manual, or your owner's manual, I'm sorry, and cross-reference it with your miles. Alright, let's go check out the parts and stuff that we're going to need to do this. Okay, to do our oil change, what we're going to need is a filter. The best thing to do is jump online. Places like IPDUSA.com can sell these in bulk, and I think I bought 12 of them for $30 or $40, and they come of course with the new filter and a new rubber O-ring for the filter housing, which is important. So once you got the filter, next thing you're going to need is a new crush washer. About every third oil change you want to replace this, and this actually goes on the drain plug, and I'll show that to you here shortly. The next thing is the actual oil. For the 2.5 liter turbos, you're going to need 6.1 quarts of 10W30. I use Mobil 1 synthetic. I do in all my vehicles. And then the next tool you're going to need is going to be your oil filter housing wrench. Now, you can get styles like this, you know, different sizes. You can even get the wrench band style. Let me show you real quick. You get styles like this that fit up onto the filter or the housing, and then as you apply pressure, it grips it, and you can loosen it. But in the past, I've tried to use those and always just fought with it, and I finally broke down, and I spent the $10 for the actual right size cup from IPD USA. And this thing is a godsend. It cuts the job from about 20 minutes of messing with it with its old styles to about 5 minutes, and I'll show you that when we change the oil. Now in the XC90 you have a plastic splash and debris guard underneath your engine, just to help stuff not to flip up in there and damage components and whatnot. That takes a 14 millimeter, and I believe there are 6 bolts on there that you'll want to take off, and I use a 6.14 millimeter socket, 3/8 inch drive with a extension on it to get those off. And the next tool is a 17 millimeter box end, or even a ratchet, and this is for your drain plug. I'll show you that when we get under there. And the next thing I like to do is, I don't have one on my Dakota yet, but on my XC90 I have a little 1-inch binder that has, you know, my service log. I usually keep the old ones back here, but with this I can write down what I've done, and I also jump on the internet and print out some basic information, what things are, and also take a minute to jot down the size of the nuts and stuff so I can get my tools ready, and the amount of oil that I need to put in, just different things. It's always a good thing to have a service log. I've since moved to using, along with this, using Google Documents. They're Excel documents to keep track of this information, but the only thing I don't like about Google Docs is that I can't add, documents like, here's a whole list of different size bulbs, and they're cross-referenced to bulbs places like AutoZone or O'Reilly's or Napa would carry. I can't upload documents like that yet to Google, but as soon as I can do away with the old pen and paper stuff. But let's go ahead and take a look at the car and get ready to do this oil change. Okay, here we go. 2.5 liter turbo engine, 2004 Volvo XC90 front wheel drive. You've got your oil fill cap here, which I'll go ahead and take off, just so that when I'm draining it, it relieves the pressure. And then let's get under there and take that splash guard off. Okay, my model, here's the splash guard right here, this guy. I have 5 of these 14mm bolts that I'll take off. Alright, I'll just take them off. I'll spare you the video. I'll go ahead and remove this, and then I'll be right back with you. Okay, so now once we got the cover off, just set it aside, and here is your drain plug right here. And what we'll do is position our catch pan close enough to it. We'll go ahead and break it loose. Okay, once that's broken loose, make sure our drain pan is going to catch it. And let's just spin it off. Now, typically what I usually do is I'll drive my vehicles a couple of blocks for about 4 or 5 minutes, and then bring it back just so the oil is nice and warm and it can flow a little easier. And as I'm spinning it off, I'll keep pressure on it. Until I'm ready. Then I will yank it off. Make sure you have a rag ready to catch it, and so you can put your drain plug in there, and just make sure your pan stays positioned to catch all that. And this plug is a 17mm. Alright, while we let that drain, let's go ahead and replace the washer on the drain plug. Let's go back to the bench real quick. Alright, here's our drain plug with, it should just have one washer on it, but my last oil change I got a little overzealous and left the copper one on there. But as you can see, it's just a regular metal washer, and they recommend about every 3rd oil change to replace that. Now the grass and stuff you see in there is because I dropped I dropped this on my floor, but as you can see, the magnetic tip, and I purchased one with a magnetic tip to grab any trash and whatnot, has grab some slush and some trash, which you know, with 140 some odd thousand miles, I guess that's not too bad. But definitely, if you have the magnetic tip, go ahead and clean it off. And I may, in a couple of months, do a compression test on the cylinders. Make sure I'm not losing compression, because that's not a lot of shavings, but I'd imagine it's got to be coming from the valves or the piston rings somewhere. Okay. Once you get that pretty well cleaned off, I'll take as soon as I find it, my shop toothbrush and kind of clean the threads off as best I can. Now, is this totally necessary? No. Is it anal retentive on my part? Yes. And this fiber that you see coming off of here is part of my anal retentiveness of putting plumber's tape around the threads that don't go all the way into the pan, just to make sure I don't get an oil leak. And as you can tell, it's more of a pain than it is a help. I'm not going to do it this time, so that was the last oil change was the first time I did it, and every time I've changed the oil on this I've never noticed a leak, so I think it just may be way overkill. Alright, it seems pretty clean to me. Let's go ahead and get a new washer. And I bought these from IPDUSA.com. I think I got 10 of them for 12 cents a piece or something like that. I don't know the exact measurements. I guess I could take a micrometer and get those. And that way I could go to Home Depot or Lowe's or Ace Hardware or something, buy a ton of them without having to pay shipping. But since I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 of them left, I'll go ahead and use these before I start hunting another source. But pretty simple. Just take it and slip it on. There you go, you got a new washer. All done. So now this is ready to go back up under the car. And for the old washers, just throw them away, recycle them. It should just be one washer on there. I was being retentive and left the old copper one on, but just throw them away. Let's go ahead and put this bad boy back in the pan. Okay. As you can see, we've got a pretty slow drip. Pretty happy with that. So, I'm going to go ahead and put the plug back in. And always, 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 when you're threading it back in, thread it all the way down with your hand. If it starts to bind, back it out. It should not bind. Start over again, thread it in. You should be able to thread it all the way down with your hand. Okay. Once you get it threaded, I like to clean it off just so I can keep an eye on possible oil leaks in the future. When I came up under here today, it was dry, so I knew nothing was leaking. So I'll get it finger tight, and I'll take my 17mm and boy, it's hard holding the camera and doing this, but what I'll do, see if I can show you, I'll take the palm of my hand, and I'll go about half a turn. Since that was still pretty loose, I didn't get it threaded all the way down with my hand. They're slippery. But once I've got it snug on there, I'll go about a quarter of a turn. And that's good. Just crush the washer. Take that off. And now it is time to get our filter off, which is this guy right here. So what we want to do is use filter housing removal tool, which fits right up on there. Take for this filter housing tool socket, this size is 22mm. But once you get it on there, removing the housing is not difficult. Okay, once you break it loose, get your oil pan, set it up under there, and then just start to loosen it. You're going to see some oil drip out. Get it loose enough to where you can turn it by hand. There we go. You want to be careful because there is oil in there and it will drip out. And it could be very hot. Wiggle it just a little bit. Let's take it out. Okay, there we go. Okay. The old filter fell out, but I'll go ahead and put it back in there so we can take it to the bench and take a look at it. We'll let that drip. Let's take it out of the... Let's remove the filter wrench from the housing. May not be able to do that. If not, it's okay, because you're going to need to have it on there to tighten it back up. But what you want to do is, this should just pull right out. And there is the old nasty one. Okay, set that one aside. I'm going to use the new box that the new filter came in. inside there. And then just dispose of it properly. Let me drain this old oil that's down there. Alright, once you've drained that, what I'll do is I'll take a rag and I will clean the inside of this out just to get any of that old oil out of there. I'll go ahead and clean the threads. It doesn't have to be spotless, but you'll try to get as much as you can. There we go. I suppose if you wanted to, if you saw enough crud down there, you could spray it out with some brake parts cleaner. Really get it clean, but yeah, I'm happy with that. I mean, I see some gunk and crap down there, but I say that. Here I am cleaning it. You know, doesn't hurt. I mean, this is your equipment. Take care of it. Okay. Now, the next part about this housing is this rubber O-ring here. Now, you can get a little screwdriver like this guy here and pry it off. That way, if you don't have a little screwdriver, you can cut it, or if you have a pick, you know, use a pick, but just somehow of getting it off of there. And it pops off just like that. Throw it away, or you know, if you have some clever way of reusing this, you know, post a comment. I want to know. I always hate throwing things away, but I also don't want to be a pack rat or a hoarder. Okay, now question is okay, now that I've taken it off, where does the O-ring go? Does it go in this first slot here or the second one? A good way to remember is you'll have a notch right here that is for your pick or your screwdriver to get under the old O-ring. It goes below that notch, so in the fat section. And you'll also see that if you try to put it in this first slot, there's threads here that'll stop it from seating properly, so you should be able to tell really quickly that something was wrong. Okay, so now to get the new one on, pretty much the reverse of removal. You know, I usually start it somewhere along the thread down there and just work it around. And it stretches. Oh, my glove broke. So, I mean, once it's stretched, then it seats in there just fine. You can, if you want, get a little bit of oil, rub it around there. I'm going to get some new gloves. I'll be right back. Okay, new gloves are on. So once that's done, got your rubber O-ring on there. Time to put the new filter in. You'll notice that you have holes on either end. Doesn't really matter which way you put it in. I usually leave the letter side up, but you'll notice this little ridge down here should seat right inside of here. There you go. Once you hear that pop, that means that it's seated. I don't know how well you can see down there. It's seated in there properly. So now it is time to put it back in the car, fill it up with oil. Alright, back up under the car. Let's go ahead and take a look. and our filter housing. And yes, you know me, I'm going to clean it. Especially any of the oil that dripped, just so that in the future I can eyeball this and make sure nothing is leaking down here. Okay. Alright, once you're done being anal retentive, take your new filter out and put your housing up there and thread it by hand. Now this one's a little misleading because it does start to get tight early on in the game. So you want to get it on there with your hand. You can watch the rubber O-ring in there, make sure it's not binding or pooching out anywhere, so that it has a good seal. And yeah, I'm happy with that. Okay. And that squeaking is the rubber O-ring. I'm just going to take a look at it again and make sure it didn't jump out of the groove. No, we're still good. Alright. Never hurts just to be triple safe. Okay. Now once it's on there snug, take your 22mm socket and give it about a quarter turn. About half a turn. It should be pretty good. Well, shoot. I don't like. Let's just check. Yeah, I think that should be pretty good. What you're trying to do is get that rubber O-ring to crush properly around the whole filter housing to prevent any leaks. So I'm just going to give it a little bit more. Okay. You don't have to kill it. I mean, I'm being pretty ginger with it. Being pretty easy. I just want to make sure that it mates. I mean, it's still pretty loose, but I want to make sure that it mates up there. Snug and without binding. Yeah. Once you're positive it's not binding, then you can go ahead and turn it all the way down. And then once it's seated all the way up there, go ahead and that's when you give it about a quarter turn, snug it in there, and you're good. Go ahead and clean off any oil. And you'll notice this might be hard to get off. What you can do is just tap it. There we go. And let's go ahead and clean that off. Alright, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and leave this cover off that goes underneath here. just so I can drive it after I fill it up with oil and come back and check for any leaks and whatnot. But let's go ahead and top it off with the 6.1 quarts. Alright, I've got 5 quarts in here, so I'll dump this whole thing in there and then add 1.1 quarts. Yeah, but of course, before you start dumping this in there, do a mental check for your drain plug and your filter housing. Make sure you got those on there, because you don't want this new oil running out all over the place. I'll let that sit there for a minute. Alright, now I know that that has 5 quarts inside of there. So I need to put 1.1 quarts back in. Okay, so you're asking, hey dude, how do you get 1.1 quarts? Well, I don't. What I usually do is I'll save a 1 quart jug, pour 1 quart into this container, and then dump that in. And this way I know I have exactly 6 quarts, give or take, in the system. And then I'll put it on level ground, check it, and if I can see the 0.1, then I'll go ahead and add that in. But for the most part, I put in 6 quarts of oil, and usually I've never had any problems yet. And I usually run my oil changes anywhere between 4,000 and 5,000 miles. You know, city driving and whatnot, and every now and then traveling. But it seems to have done the trick, and I haven't had any problems so far. Alright, once that's done in there, go ahead and take your funnel, wipe it off, set it aside. This is a good time to inspect your oil fill cap. Take a look at this rubber ring that's around here. Make sure it's still pliable. And if it's cracked or brittle, like this one, seems pretty good, you want to replace it, just so you don't have oil splashing up all over your engine. And it's not only dirty and stinks and fire hazard, but the oil's not staying in the engine, and that's never a good thing. But once that's done, put your oil cap back on. And wipe it down. Make sure it's snug. And let's check the level. And your dipstick is right down here in the front of the engine. Wipe it off and then put it back in. and now check it. And I don't know how well you can see that, but there are a series of hash marks, a bottom line and a top line, and I'm right at the top line. So we're good there. And the reason I pull the dipstick out for the first time, wipe it off, then put it back in, pull it out and do my check then is, as you fill it up, and what I've been told, and it's served me well for years, as you fill it up, you drive the car, the oil pan, any sloshing movement, braking or anything like that, is going to slosh some oil up into your dipstick tube, and that could skew your reading. So pull it out, wipe it, stick it back in, then pull it out again and check it, and that should be a closer, truer reading than if you just did it once. But there you go. That has been the oil change on a 2004 Volvo XC90 with a 2.5 liter turbo front wheel drive. Not too bad. Usually takes me about 15-20 minutes, even with all the wiping and cleaning and anal retentive crap that I do. But it's pretty fun. It's nice to get up under there, and it's a good chance to look at the engine, see if anything is broken or cracked or needs to be replaced. You know, and take your time and enjoy yourself. I mean, this is your equipment. You paid money for this, and you've worked hard to earn it. So, you know, take care of it and enjoy it. But if you have any questions or comments or tips or anything that I missed, you know, definitely give me a shout. Leave them in the comments section, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Bye. I almost forgot. How do you turn off the maintenance reminder light that shows up right here? After you've done your maintenance, you want to know how to turn that off, so here it is. Get in your car, put your keys in, turn it to position 1, and then you'll have a little reset post guy right here. Hold it down, then turn your key to position 2, and your triangle indicator light should blink twice. 2, let go, and then turn your car off. And that's it. Next time you go to start it, it should go to your miles per gallon or odometer or whatever you have it set to. I have mine set to nothing, but if you cycle through it, you can cycle through it via the switch here. You can tell it to do whatever you want. But there you go. After you do your maintenance, that's how you shut that light off. And Volvo's smart enough to, if you ignore the maintenance long enough, the amber triangle will go off, and then it just say regular maintenance. Time for regular maintenance down here in this corner. But that's how you reset it. Just remember to do it every time you do your oil change, or if it pops up and you have other maintenance like spark plugs or a belt or timing belt or differential fluid change or whatnot. But there you go, guys. Thanks again for watching. I hope it helps. Leave comments and questions, and I'll answer them as soon as I can. Thanks for watching.